right. With this, I'll request Mr. Joshua to please be seated as we'd like to proceed with the panel discussion. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as we proceed with the same conversation, I'd like to invite our panelists on stage. May I please invite Mr. Nitin Agarwal, CEO, GlobalBees, to join us on stage? Let's hear it loud together as we welcome Mr. Nitin Agarwal. I'd like to invite Mr. Manish Chowdhary, co-founder of Wow Skin Science, to please join us on stage for the panel discussion. Mr. Bharat Sethi, founder and CEO, Rage Coffee. I believe he's going to join us. There he is. We'd like to welcome him. We'd also like to welcome Mr. Rajat Wahi, partner Deloitte India, to please join us on stage. Let's hear it loud together as we welcome him. And to moderate the session, may I please invite Ms. Charu Lamba, Deputy Editor, Indian Retailer. Let's hear it loud together, everyone, as we welcome Ms. Charu Lamba on stage. And with this, I'd like to hand it over to Ms. Lamba.
Hi. Hi. Can't hear you. Hi. Louder. Hi. Okay, so we are talking about the modern brands, how they are innovating these days. As you know, the brands, they have started changing as per the consumer needs. Earlier, the brand was the king, but now the consumer has become the king these days. So I want to know from the brand here first, which is Wow. So Manish, how are you innovating to match the changing consumer expectations?
I think Kawal's spoken a lot today before the session on how consumer brand journey has been. But clearly at our end, we started off in 2013-14. Let me just give you some history about it. Toughest category to be in, shampoos, personal care. It was all driven by consumer need. At least what was connecting us was with digital. But I think that moat is broken today. You're getting to understand consumer trends a little bit more sharper. It's an exciting time to be a brand in this country, knowing that loyalty is at the lowest ever. But strongly believe that this decade belongs to India and the brands. But consumers are very specific today on their needs. They have at least come with a preset notion on what they want, what they don't want. At least in our category, we're fighting 50,000 brands online, right? That's huge. Consumers are getting sharper, brighter. You're getting to know trends which are now something which you can know is sustainably long-term than something which could be short-term. But clearly a very exciting time for consumers today in this country and also to be brands for the future.
So Navin, I mean, you're working with lots of brands these days, right? So what sort of changes have you seen the brands adopting, what they are doing, and what can they do actually to match the changing consumer expectations?
Sure. So I'll speak a little because they've already heard me quite a bit. We'll have the others talk more. But the one interesting trend change that we've seen in supporting brands is scaling profitably. About 12 months back, brands said that scale was one page of the book and profitability was the other page. We'll first scale, and then next step we'll go profitable, then again we'll scale, and again we'll go profitable, or at least try to work on profitability. We've worked with some brands that have been razor sharp about it, pretty much from day one as well. Some of them are standing here, I can see them. And those are the ones that are actually featured and celebrated today, that are able to say, focus on the consumer, look at that entire post-order journey and that experience. I think that entire space with tech and looking closely at the consumer is something that there's been a lot of innovation on and a lot more focus with businesses and brands. Earlier, it was a lot more, and we are as much party and parcel to this entire space. It was all about performance marketing and ROI. If that was fine, do everything else. And there came a point at which it had its point of diminishing returns. And like any good business, as Manish also said, I think you just have to work closely on the basics consistently, and profitable scale is also possible.
So Navin, you talked about technology. So Nitin, I want to know from you, what role does data plays in making the brand meet the consumer expectations?
I think it makes all the difference, actually. See, what has happened is, I think historically data always played a big role. And if you go to an offline ecosystem, you had great agencies, AC Nielsen's of the world, and you always try to get a secondary data. But what has happened is, with the digital commerce, there's so much of primary data. It's a data overload. So to be able to simplify their data, make a essence, make multiple theories and prove it, and doing it constantly over and over again every day to get the right insight for that day, month, and week. I think that has become critical. It's no more an insight which lasts even a year, for example. The insights change based on event which may or may not have happened, which could be internal or external. So how do you catch this data insights? Because data is overloaded right now. And being able to react in an agile fashion to that data every day, I think that is becoming critical. So as the data is becoming more democratic, I think making sense in reacting to that is becoming a very sharp competitive edge.
So as you said, the festive season is around the corner. So what can the brands do in that case?
What kind of brands?
What can the brands do in that case?
So a lot of things. So typically what would happen, right? Whenever a festive event is there, to be able to predict how much inventory to build up, because you won't be able to do that. Then depending on your inventory and a sale through, how do you price and how do you dynamically price? Because if you price too aggressively, sell out on the first day, it doesn't matter. You won't get next inventory for the entire season, right? So you have to optimize for growth and profitability. So to be able to set up those systems and being ready to react on like a hourly basis, having your supply chain sorted, and the technology to move that quickly, pricing decisions, how do you react to competition? You don't know how competition is going to price, what competition. To be able to set that rightly and being able to react, I think that's a big play in terms of what technology can do for you.
So Rajat, you have gone through a rigorous process at being a jury of the D2C100. You have gone through a rigorous process of selecting the brands. We have studied lots of brands who have applied for the D2C100 list. So what sort of consumer expectation, how they are managing the consumer expectations, what changes have you observed while analyzing the data in that?
Yeah, so I think we haven't looked, we looked at a long list of brands, and it's always hard, right, to figure out what are you judging them for. Is it for customer acquisition? Is it for reach? Is it for, their profitability? Is it for their ability to scale up? Is it who's able to sort of, has the shortest runway? So I think there's just so many criteria, and Ritu and we all discussed a lot in terms of how do you judge a brand's performance? It's not just about some are extremely innovative, like what Manish talked about, coming into a very tough category, creating a brand where you thought nobody would be able to create because likes of P&G and Unilever have dominated these categories for hundreds of years and extremely difficult. Then you come in there, or you create a category which is where lots of people are, which a niche where there's a new need for it. It could be in packaged foods, it could be that. So I think we looked at lots of areas around that and made the assessment based on what brands are doing differently, who have got scale. What is the profitability criteria? Because liquidity is also drying up in this new environment that we are faced with today, with all the inflation, etc. And then what are some of the other things that the brands are doing differently to stand out in the market, versus competition? So lots of areas. It's hard to say which is one which is very good. Scale could be a great number. Profitability is a great number. Customer acquisition is a great number. Uniqueness is a great way to look at it. So lots of cuts on that.
Yeah, sure. So one quick question. X factor which can make the brand stand apart from the crowd. So I'll start one by one, same questions to all the panelists. Let's start from Navin first.
So I don't represent a brand, so I'm not well qualified for that. But we'll pass that question on to them. But I had a follow-up thought on data. And, we are seeing that the customer is maturing. We've seen brands that have been able to do crores of monthly GMV in prepaid only. Earlier, there was a lot of, there was a lot of COD. There was a lot of feel that it was more, impulse was higher RTO driven. We are seeing a lot more seriousness in the buying spectrum that has come in. When I talk about data and what from our perspective, we are seeing brands doing much more intelligently there. I believe that play of MarTech, communications, sharpening, AI of consumers that's coming in and increasing that conversion rate just by a bit is beginning to make a huge difference. We've seen even in impulse-based categories, something like 45% and upwards repeat customer purchase rate, or RCR as you call it, which is unheard of within a short cohort of even 6 months when there is so much options available. It is only because of that sharpness that whoever's being able to do it much better is leapfrogging in that value chain. We feel so.
Yeah. Nitin, please. What is the X factor then that can make or break the brands in front of the consumers?
Make and break, I think that's very simple. It's the right customer experience post-purchase. If you haven't met your expectation of a customer, because every customer that you acquire comes in with a great effort, love, and disappointment if you see the funnel, right? And you end up acquiring that 1% customer which started a 100 funnel. And if you lose that after your experience, I think that will never make a brand, and it will definitely break the brand.
Yeah, Manish, please.
I think we're a long way away from breaking. We'll talk about making, because we still have not reached out to majority of real India using our products. But let me talk about more towards the brand side. I think there's so much of pressure, and today the moats are copied. I mean, I remember when we used to launch something, it used to take a year before somebody copied it. Those copies happen in 3 months now, right? I think the make is clearly is innovation. Continue to break barriers there. And second is even innovative marketing, right? Thankfully, we are funded. But look at some of the clutter-breaking stuff, what you can make to make a brand. Look at what Sugar did with getting Ranveer. Ranveer coming for a makeup ad. Did you ever think about that? We got Kartik Aaryan and Rashmika, which should be just coming out. These are some things which are making in consumers' mind. And I think those are the differentiators than so many brands which are being created by the day. How do you cut clutter, right? That's so critical in the journey of making. Just going back again, I think it was very easy our days to reach 100 crores in 2 years or 3 years. That's getting done faster. The 500 crores is getting easier. But I think it's very important to make brand in a consumer's mind, which makes a lot more. I think we are still far away from break because there's so much more to capture.
But Manish, let me tell you, you have a very good brand recall value. So once my mother called me up and said, Charu, wow ka onion wala shampoo order kar de mere liye. So I mean, if my mom remembers and she wants to use it, I mean, you are reaching the right audience at the right
Thank you so much.
So Rajat, what would you like to add to it?
For me, I think it's the classic 4 Ps or 5 Ps: product, price, placement, promotion. And like Manish said, the product life cycle has become very short. I used to work for Revlon many years ago. We used to launch one lipstick. It used to last for 2-3 years. Then you have to get shorter. Copying is easier. So it is a hard category. I mean, there is just innovation, and shopper demands a lot of innovation today. Trade demands a lot of innovation, and innovation comes with returns. If it doesn't do well, you get all of that product back. It's a hard business. I mean, you have to really stay on top of it, and I think you have got to watch the 4 Ps, and you've got to watch at the back end how you're sourcing, what is your inventory, what is your packaging looking like. I think lots of challenges for all of these guys who are building brands today and for future, but yeah, I think the classic 4 Ps or 5 Ps is very, very important to keep track of on a daily basis.
So to conclude this, I would like to say, I guess the 100 brands which have made to the list are actually following all the rules which the panel has discussed about. So a huge round of applause for all the brands, please. Thank you. Any audience questions, please?
We'd request you please pass on the mic.
Good evening, everybody. And this question is specific to Navin Joshua. Okay. Hi, Navin. Here, I'm here. Okay. Hi, Navin. I represent the eFunds, which is a artificial intelligence-driven financial service company. And my question is that because you largely you manage all this e-commerce for the brands and things, how many customer complaints that you get in a month, and how are you resolving it?
Customer complaints?
Complaints.
Complaints.
Yeah.
So we don't handle customer care or customer experience, but we do train chatbots, activate CRM for a lot of them. In terms of complaints, see, in terms of inbound queries, what we know is that typically if the journey is fairly sorted, about 80% of the queries are just, where is my order? Because, even no matter how many notifications or how much you want to try and reverse that into an outbound, customers are calling inbound because of many reasons. They're not always answering phone calls for our own verifications, but are calling in to know that. Or actually larger self-service. Calling is less, self-service is more. So yeah, as a number, I think, Manish and the others may be better suited to explain that. But we do believe that it's getting harder and harder for consumers to be able to pick up a phone to talk to someone. There are assisted shopping categories like furniture, like high price point valued items, like jewelry, where, we are seeing a lot more click to call, a lot more journeys of being able to convert it into an omni sale, even offline, push inventory to stores, BOPIS, hopping, which is all part of, we call it customer care. I wouldn't say complaints, but really more enabling revenue. So that's what brands want to be able to listen to, hear the voice of the customer on. Complaints, I think you'd be better placed to.
Can you repeat the question again?
Actually, I was just asking Navin, saying that he largely manages the e-commerce business. So I was just asking how many numbers of customer complaint that you will get in a month, and how are you resolving it?
See, it depends on how much traffic and orders you get in that day. And I think 85% of our complaints are also, where is my order, right? Just let me give you some kind of place where you can, initially in 2016-17, maybe this could be a relevant answer, but could inspire you. We were doing around 3,000 to 4,000 orders a day, and we were the only Indian after sales for a shampoo in this country. And we had an average time of a consumer staying on the phone with us for 8 minutes and above, right? That also was a big word of mouth engine for us on marketing. But 85%, if you automate where's your delivery, you'll have a very small bucket of troubled consumers where you can focus on solving their issues, right? At our end, we have less than 0.5% of consumers, 0.5% of consumers who don't like the product, right? Who said, I want a refund for it, right? So it's very small. Most of it is, where is my order? And some of them are COD abuse. So I think it's all sorted. It's a very matured Indian consumer today than where we were in 16s and 17s. A lot of automation, bots, a lot of things are done proactively today, which reduces these impacts on a daily basis. It's important, otherwise no brand can have that kind of scale at these levels.